I am joined today by Caleb Olson, a Minnesota-based software engineer with a passion for building novel solutions to problems, leading him to invent the Poopcopter, a drone used to pick up dog excrement, which is a problem near and dear to my heart, having two dogs. So Caleb, thank you for being in my orbit and joining me today on Cupalo Conversations.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to chat. Anytime I have any opportunity I have to talk about the poop copter, I will take it. So
So let's dive into what it is, because for those who've not had the pleasure of seeing said prototype, can you describe what it looks like and how it works?
I have it in front of me actually, so I can show
Ooh.
you it. Basically, it's well, before I show it, just super high level, the idea is the for the project was an end-to-end, fully automated dog poop removal system. So a number of years ago, I made a dog poop detector, and there's a few different layers to different projects I've tackled, addressing or attempting to make dog poop pickup an easier thing. But this is the magnum opus, the coup de grace, the whatever. Insert your expression there for the hopefully the final project with involving poop. It's a drone, so I've had to learn how to build a drone and solder it and put it together. There's a few extra gadgets and stuff on it, but the idea is depending on the model of how it's operationalized, if it's direct to consumer or it's some kind of service, however it's operationalized, the core of it is it can just fly around in a pattern, a grid. Maybe it's just a defined like your defined area, like your backyard, for example. As it's scanning this there's a camera on the inside, so it's just patrolling like 10 feet in the air, just scanning the ground, and as it's patrolling. Um, it's streaming the footage offboard to another machine, which has more compute on it, um, which is doing heavier machine learning algorithms to detect actual poop on the ground. And if it sees the poop, it'll land on the poop. And this is where this weird torture-looking device thing come into play. It'll land in its open state, and then pretend this is grass. All it has to do is rotate 30 degrees. You can see these leaves flare in, and the mechanism inside closes, and it's able to pick up whatever's on the inside. So this design is
Wow.
optimized for grass specifically with this rake-like deal, and it's hard to tell from this perspective, but it's also sloped. So as it closes, it sort of scoops and it combs to be able to fight through and get through the grass to pick up whatever it's landed on. And then it just flies away and it can go and drop it off, or um, it can actually spin in midair fast enough to fling open and sky dump, or just drop whatever its payload is. So that's probably a little deeper than you wanted, but end to end, um, it scans an area of grass or anywhere really. It's just this prototype's optimized for grass. And if it finds a poop, it lands, picks it up, and drops it off at a target drop-off location.
Your neighbor's house. I
Um,
like it.
yeah, on the neighbor's house, in the woods. I have a brother that lives a few miles away. It might be out of range for this thing because it's kind of a beefy boy um, in its current state, but I still want to fly it over his house and get footage of it dumping on his house, and then just send him a link. Something very childish.
Are you using actual dog excrement, or are you using the fake stuff you can buy in a novelty shop?
Yeah, for most of my tests, I've got a bunch of these. My basement in my yard is a psycho's house. I've just got a bunch of like fake poop and um, different objects if I'm in a pinch. But yeah, I try not to because I'm testing it when I was in active development of the project. I'm testing it all the time. I don't want to just constantly be just huffing turds, you know. There's some other issues that need to be resolved, like how do you clean the thing if you sell it to a customer? How do you clean it? Um, some other things to consider before it makes sense totally as an end product, but this is just a prototype.
Yeah, and there's other surfaces too. You were mentioning when we first talked that you're thinking of of creating other attachment features to pick up on like concrete, or people have rock backyards, things like that. Not everyone
Yeah,
has grass.
yeah. I had to pick one. I only have so much time just to prove the concept. I just picked grass because that makes the most sense. But it would not be hard. In fact, I've got a design. I haven't tested it yet, but I've got a design for the way it's assembled. This faceplate deal with the really long torture spikes on it. It wouldn't be hard to design a pin, like a pin mechanism. Right now, it's just glued, very caveman-like together, so it's very rigid. But it wouldn't be hard, I don't believe, to. I believe it would be easy to design a pin, which you could just attach the faceplate or pop it off and put like a lower profile one without the spikes and maybe just like a rubber grip or something around the ring, and then it'd be able to grip onto concrete and pick up trash. Maybe a different mechanism would work better for snow. I haven't even thought about that. I feel like there's a lot of ways it could be applied. I've been just so focused on the poop, the turds, that I haven't really lifted my head up to think what else I could do with this thing.
So now, do you have a patent or is it pending?
Pending. Um, yeah, I have a patent pending. I might file a couple more. I'm not sure. Um,
What's the
but yeah.
process like for that? I've heard it can be rather labor intensive, and I don't know if you ended up leveraging the help of a lawyer, but that was my understanding. Was that your experience?
Yeah, it's tough because I'm obviously invested in this project and a lot of my side projects, but it's just a huge question mark and how much I want to invest my money, because as soon as I invest my time into these things and some money in terms of material, but it's easy to spend, like if you do it right, you can spend like 10K, I hear, on lawyers, doing all the technical writing and covering all your bases and writing it in a way that provides like a maximal amount of coverage, I guess, in the way you've written it in the language. I did not. I wrote it myself. I basically just went into a hole on a Saturday morning and just did a lot of research and technical writing and diagramming and labeling of images and did some research on examples of language and like approaches to styles of writing. But yeah, I did it myself and then submitted it, and there's a small fee for like depending on the size of the entity submitting patents. Like if you're a massive company or if you're just like a person, for a person, it's like $90, so it's pretty cheap. The barrier to entry is pretty low, but it's something I question is uh, whether I went far enough with it, or yeah, I don't know. People say patents don't really protect you anyway because people, if someone's determined enough, they can just find another way around your patent, um, tweak something so it's not really following your claims and your patents, and it's essentially the same thing. They basically ripped it off, but it's not defensible. So I think I'm mostly hinging on just the grunt labor I've put in, where if someone wanted to rip it off, there probably would be better spent, especially if it's a company, rather than trying to reverse engineer what I did. Just pay me and I'll integrate it in, or work with you to offload it and teach whoever else like on board how to use and work the system and stuff.
I bet you've learned a lot through inventing this. Is this your first invention?
Depends on what you mean by invention. I'm a software engineer, so most of my side projects are software based. This is the first real, more serious intersection of software engineering and physical material and actually interacting with the world. I've had a couple other gimmicky things, like the second iteration of the dog poop detector was using a security camera to detect poop, and then based on where the poop is, I had a laser mounted to like a robot arm, which would point at the poop that's closest to where I'm standing in my backyard at the time, and then using stupid don't know if you've heard of like pose estimation stuff. If you saw a picture of what it looks like, you'd recognize it. It basically just detects key points on your body. So like if it detects your hip and your head and your feet, if you just like compare the points over time, you can detect whether someone's laying down or standing. So basically, whenever I'd go to pick up the poop, it would detect that I've crouched within a proximity of the poop, and most likely I've picked it up, and then the arm will just like guide me to the next poop. And uh, another layer of nerd to it is um, anyone that's gone through the computer science or software engineering programs heard of this traveling salesman problem. It's supposed to be like a really hard optimization problem of finding the shortest distance between n like cities, or in this case, like poop instead of cities. So that it would route me on the optimal route, or like the likely optimal route throughout my yard to minimize the walking distance to all the poops. But that project was a super over-engineered, kind of gimmicky joke project. But that, yeah, aside from that, a dog poop detector, and I guess, yeah, there are a few other projects I open sourced. A baby sleep tracking system. I noticed I've got two kids now, and I noticed you can buy off the shelf baby monitors. Um, but a lot of them are expensive and closed box, and it felt really simple to just, I mean, it doesn't sound simple to like the layperson, but to just use basic off the shelf like computer vision algorithms. So like Google and a few other companies, a number of other companies have open source key point, they call it landmark detection, I think. So like just even just with a picture of your face, you pass it through this algorithm, this landmark detection algorithm, and it'll output a mesh of where it thinks all these key points on your face are. So like the left part of your mouth, your right ear, like the curvature of your ear, and you've got this map of locations on your face. And if you think about that over time in a video as it moves, you can detect different movements. So like if I just open my mouth, you can detect if you have a point here, 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 all around your mouth, and you're moving over time, you can just track those points and detect basic heuristics like whether you've opened or closed your mouth. So applying that to just like a simple camera, like a $30 Chinese crap camera, like I have above my one of my baby's cribs right now, and just an offboard. I just have a Raspberry Pi using employing these algorithms, and it's constantly running on the footage from the security or the baby camera or whatever, and it's just detecting those heuristics over time. So like the sleep tracking will detect whether the baby's eyes are closed, minimal movement. I think there are a few other heuristics I was looking for, and then it would just keep a log of when your baby's asleep and when your baby's awake, and it helps with your like newborns especially take so many naps, and a lot of people will just like use apps to manually track it. But that invention or software project, whatever you'd call it, um, sort of automates all that for you, so there's no manual tracking. That was the intent, because my wife is like, well, did you put the baby down? When did you put the baby down? When did baby wake up? Um, Yeah, and it would centralize that information in just like a web app, on just hosted on my over my local my Wi-Fi basically. So anyone on my Wi-Fi, me and my wife, for the most part, could just go to localhost whatever baby app, and see when the baby was sleeping, and it spits out some other cool metrics. But that's open source. Anyone can go and use that. That's just on my GitHub. And then there's a couple other projects. I can go on for a long time talking about these things. So I'll stop talking now.
Is your hope to be a great inventor, either of a software product or a physical product, or like you said with the poopcopter, the intersection of both? Is your hope to invent something that changes the world?
I don't know if I have a single goal or hope. Like if I had a hope, it's like I hope I solve world hunger, and I'm like building towards that. I don't know if there's any hope involved. I think it's just purely like a passion, and there's an element of just psycho obsession. Once I get attached, there's something, my wife would be the first to agree with that statement. There's just psycho level of obsession sometimes, because you have to spend, like, the poop copter was probably hundreds of hours over the course of a year. I'm not trying to be an inventor necessarily. I think it's passion towards solving something that hasn't been done before, or like a novel approach to a common problem. They're usually, most of these projects attempt to solve, if you think about the patterns of all of them, they're solving, aside from the stupid laser, um, uh, common problems. So like all the poop journey I've been on is dog poop. No one likes to pick up dog poop. That's an obvious one. Yeah, I don't think I'm on any like grand singular journey to like to be an inventor or anything like that. I think it's just an outpouring of passion and the excitement that comes from like feeling like I've got an idea that I feel like no one's done, and it's like an approach no one's taken. No one's built a dog poop pickup system using a flying drone with a this, this torture device attached to it. Uh, um, so there's something exciting about that where there's it's just a novel new thing that hasn't been done, and I'm off sort of off the road researching like regular drone tech and getting up to speed in like how do you control a drone in an automated way, and then immediately going off the path and like trying to figure out how to make it spin like really fast in midair without crashing so that the mechanism that I've designed flings open and drops a payload. There's something fun and exciting about that because I'm not just building a web app for a company or some basic, just like typical what 95% of engineers are doing, which is just corporate software and web technology.
Speaking of corporate software and web technology, because you do have a day job, is my understanding, you still have a 40-hour a week commitment to a corporation. Have you felt pressured today to go all in on that and make that your singular focus, either for the point of solving this problem no one solved or making a great name for yourself or money? I mean, have you felt pressured that way?
Yeah, I get what you're saying because a lot of people are like, abandon ship and funnel all energy into this project. But I don't see a reason to do that as of right now. I think I'm prepared to do that if I have conviction and I believe that it's going to go somewhere. But as of right now, there's no route to it making money. And maybe that's what it takes is me funneling all of my energy into it. But me being a slightly more conservative guy, I'd rather drip feed my time and energy now that I've started talking about this project after working on it for like a year and it's getting some buzz in the news and stuff. I'm hoping to find the right person or the right company to work with and scale it up in an exciting way. And maybe it takes a complete left turn and it's not even for poop. And there's something about this mechanism like we were talking earlier that could be applied to litter or something like that. This is something I'm actively wrestling with is what's the next step. I don't think it's quit my job and sink all my time into it yet. Because like I said, I don't know what the pathway is for it. I kind of want to let it breathe and recoup and figure out what the right model is, if it's direct to consumer or some kind of service. Yeah, but if the right opportunity comes and that's what it takes, like I'm not closed off to the idea of abandoning ship and going all in. But as of right now, I have a wife and two kids and a house, and um, I think staying steady state at my current job, which I'm mostly happy in, I think is in the cards. But we'll see.
Yeah. Have you gotten a lot of that free advice along the way?
Yeah, a lot of people, well, most people say, "Oh, you should go on Shark Tank," but I don't think it's that easy. I don't think you can just go on Shark Tank. And although I would love to like track Mark Cuban's sleeping or something with one of my side projects, that'd be pretty fun. Or just like I need a poop. Can whatever.
Which one of
Uh,
you sharks is going to volunteer to get out?
who's got a poop? Let's go. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people offer opinions on like, and they're always like the same ideas of like, oh, you should. I don't know. Everyone goes down the same mental pathway when they hear about the project, and they'll have the same like three ideas for what you should do, and they say that, and I just like, yeah, I don't want to be mean, but like I've heard someone say this 1,000 times, and I've spent hundreds of hours on this project. I've thought about that and a thousand other uh, ideas around that space for a number of reasons. Like I don't know, it was more so like the voices come in my opinion. Uh, in my experience in that year of when I'm heavily developing it and I'm when I was working on it and like iterating. I iterated like 20, 30 times on just this mechanism of like every part of it has been changed from the original design, every single part. And I voice my frustration because I'll be flying it and it crashes, or I'll be trying to make something happen and it just doesn't work. And I'll just like vent to whoever I'm around and I'll talk about it. And then usually that when I mentioned the three things, usually people say vacuum. Oh, what if you put a vacuum on there? Put a vacuum on the drone and just suck it up. Or what if you make a claw? The claw is the most obvious one. In fact, uh, I don't know if I can say large company names. I already did mention Google, but a very large, like the largest pet company in at least in the U.S., put out an April Fool's joke. You could just Google poop drone and dog company, and you'll find it. And it's got hundreds of thousands of views, and it's basically what everyone is whispering in my ear to do, like, oh, put a claw on the drone and pick it up. But the claw is so hard for a number of reasons. There's ways you could stabilize it and make it less complex, but a claw on a drone, it's just like the drone's already unstable, and then you've got this like claw, like I don't know if it's just flinging around or what, but or if it's stationary and it's just mounted and it comes down and it has to be super stable. The drone can't just like it's not perfect system, and it just like grabs it. And then what if it's like a runny poop, or what if it's there's just so many variables. The claw, the vacuum, and then I don't know what else. Like a scooper. The scooper is the closest one that makes the most sense, but scooper like a jaw that's just like that implies, unless it's spring loaded in some some way, uh, that implies there's like motors and stuff on the drone. And from the start, I knew this thing had to be the mechanism had to be as dumb and simple as possible. In this case, it's just plastic sliding when you rotate it. But as soon as you put motors and you have other complexities added to it, the cost of the system goes up, the battery draw on the system goes up. The weight of the drone goes way up. That's the biggest thing is you can't put much weight on these drones. It's a huge limiting factor with what you can do.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you find that at this point, you said it sounded like you kind of had an idea where you need the right person or the right entity to show up to kind of take it down the field further? Or do you feel like you have enough that you can sink your teeth into working out some more of these kind of kinks on the prototype?
yeah. Um, for me, I think it's a matter of where, like my first question personally is, where do I want to spend my time? Because I have kids, I have a job. I guess if I quit my job, I'd have way more time outside of my family to sink fully in. But I think if I consider my time based on where I'm currently at and what I'm passionate about, I'm less interested in standing it up as a business myself, which if all I care about is money and that's my prime motive, I think that would be the move, is to see this thing through further and actually start selling it myself. Um, and then proving value further down the stream of like, okay, this is actually making money and there's less risk in a company or an entity coming on board. So right now it's not making money. So if someone came in and spent a bunch of money trying to scale it up, there's risk that it just flops. So yeah, I think ideally for me specifically, since I'm less a business person, I'm less interested in dedicating my whole life to a Poopcopter. Make my dad proud and everyone in my family. Uh, uh, I'm more interested in partnering and productionizing this thing with a company or some other entity to round out the edges. Well, one, it's just personally, it's less exciting to like make it less dangerous. It's less exciting to make it work a little more reliably. I can do that. I have the ability to. It's just a matter of what's the best place to allocate my time. Best could mean a lot of things. For me, it's a combination of fun. The element of money is fun as well, where if I could make money off it, that's cool. But then the excitement of just working on something novel. So in my ideal world is working with a company offloading it in some way, being involved and help integrate it into some larger system or help round out the edges and offload it to some engineering team, and then move on to like a, I don't know, something completely different. I'm already starting to get an itch for some other kind of project, which I shouldn't tell my wife because she's been excited for me to be done with this project. Now, as soon as I'm done, I'm starting to get freaky again and think what's next. So,
Does it ever personally frustrate you that you don't get as excited about the business aspect of getting something to market? Because you are clearly very lit up about the inventing, the problem solving, the building. But building a business is a whole other set of muscles. Does it ever frustrate you that you don't want to do it all, that it's not all in your wheelhouse or skill set?
I don't think so because I mean, yeah, most people just have a lane. I have a lane. I found it doesn't frustrate me. I think I could do it. It's just it would probably be have lots of bumps in the road, and it would take so much more time than it would if I just worked with someone um, that is passionate about that kind of stuff and has more experience. Granted, I'll lose more, whatever, equity, ownership, money. Once I work with someone else, their incentive is to make money off the project, right? Um, so I don't think it doesn't frustrate me. It's just a matter of where I want to spend my time. I can't be an expert or a pro or whatever at everything, and I just don't want. I don't even want to attempt going down that path because I just know it's a long road, and it becomes that will become your only thing. And at a certain point, I probably will have to quit my job if I'm serious about this thing to stand up the business side and there's so many other variables to prove out and to figure out. It's just I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've taken this thing far enough to where I can have those conversations, or if I do need to see it a little further to prove that people are willing to actually buy it. That might be the next step. I don't know. We'll see. I need to sit on it, and if there's no out like obvious direction in the next month or two, I need to decide if I just let the Poopcopter crash and burn, or if I buckle down and try to take it a step further. Um, that's going to be something I'll have to decide at a certain point.
I really admire that, what you just said there about staying in your swim lane. Having started a company myself about 18 months ago, I recognized very early on I had a swim lane, but I wasn't allowed to just stay in it. I had to be in all lanes. And that was really painful. And it was
Yeah,
like every business book you pick up or every person you talk to seems to make it sound like, oh, it's just the nature of the beast. And it is. It really is, but it doesn't mean I have to like it. So I admire that
yeah,
you seem to know your mind very well on this one and know what you're good at and what you want to spend. You like you said, time is precious and you want to know how you want to spend your time in your life. That's really
yeah.
cool.
I'm pretty convinced the business space I'll stay out of. There's room to get taken advantage of and stuff like that. That's fine. I'm willing to accept that. But even down the technical route, there's so many domains of things you can learn, and where the exciting stuff is, in my opinion, with the Poopcopter especially is, or as an example of this, but the intersection of different disciplines. Most engineers are just a software engineer, or most data scientists are just a data scientist. Most I don't know, mechanical engineers and designers are just that. But as soon as you like combine all these things and add an element of crazy and stir it around and throw some machine learning in there, you can come up with some really cool things. But you have to be like knowledgeable in each space to know what's possible. You can't be an expert in each one. My bread and butter is software engineering, but not like skilling up in some data science and then figuring out the drone tech and how that works and some design with CAD and 3D printing. But also having people in those spaces has helped a lot along the way with this project. People sort of pruning out like, oh, maybe I should go down this route and sink 50 hours into trying something that's just doomed to fail from the start. That's churn what could have been like a 2 year project into a 1 year project, maybe. I don't know, but there's all, yeah, the business stuff is very obvious. I should stay out of. Even in the tech space, it's just like which lane should I go down and explore? Which because it's all just like I view it all as building blocks and resources for like things you could tap into to 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 bake into a project or bake into some other system. And that's where it gets exciting is when you mix disciplines. Um, and it's obvious to me, yeah, like you said, pretty obvious I should stay in the technical lane. And my brain's kind of fried. I've got to be a little more personable and better with I don't know. My brain's not good at the businessy stuff. I like to just sit in my basement and conjure up uh, weird things. So
Well, two last questions for you. You mentioned these other skills and being, multidisciplinary and building this. Another skill set there, you have appeared now on a couple of news shows, you've done some public demos. That's a certain level of skill that most software engineers who are heads down, earplugs in,
yeah.
not interacting with the world in that way on a public stage or public forum. Has that been a fun new challenge for you and put you out of your comfort zone in an enjoyable way?
Yeah, I would definitely classify myself as what you just described, like the earbuds in, like I'm not anytime I'm in front of more than like two people, I'll start getting nervous. Uh, but I definitely just like I forced myself into it. I adopted the the mindset of I don't know, anything that's easy, like there's all these like stupid like motivational stuff, but like if it was easy, everyone would do it. Uh, I've kind of like forced myself through it, and from the outside, it looks like I'm comfortable, but I'm definitely not. Going on stage, and I mean, specifically presenting on stage, it was helpful because they had such bright lights on. I couldn't really see anyone. It was just like blinded. So I'm just like a bat, like it's like talking about poop in front of seemingly hundreds of people. But so that made it easier. If I could see everyone's expression to every stupid thing I say, that would have been a little tougher. But yeah, I don't know. I think some things you just got to do it. You just got to force yourself through it and pretend like you're comfortable and just go. And if it sucks and it doesn't pan out, then I just probably won't do it again if it seems like a fruitless journey. But luckily, some of these things have been semi-successful, and it's led to some news articles, but then also it's just weird. The morning show, Australia, producer reached out. I was live to like all the elderly people in the morning, uh, sitting on their sitting at the gym on a bike or whatever, watching me talk to Larry over at the morning show about this Poopcopter. So that was really fun. It's been fun seeing like the different news and little things, even just this conversation, talking to someone that I've never met or just met about what I'm passionate about on the side is it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So,
it's the poop that unites us all, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
Well,
Weird.
my last question for you today, Caleb, you already had some great advice in there, like, kind of get out there and do it. But what about for anybody who's listening, who has ideas, maybe lots of them, but is afraid and genuinely afraid to start because of a myriad of reasons? What would your advice be to help somebody maybe get over the hurdle of not starting?
Yeah, I don't know. Part of me wants to be hardcore and just say that's part of life. Like it's part of the journey is sort of the unknown of what's going to happen. And if you're just crippled by it and you don't go anywhere, then I think you're going to be much less fulfilled in the long run. I think the fulfillment can come from a lot of different places, but sitting in and not doing, I feel like you're going to more likely to leave or just go down the path, the road of life with much more regret and what ifs if you don't do it. Because if you do it and you bomb on stage or it goes nowhere, then you've at least explored that path, and or at least you think that it's not worth continuing on, or it's like, okay, this isn't for me. But you'll have like at least some satisfaction in knowing that I've explored it and I've tried it, and I didn't just like back down and just cower or I don't know. I think you just have to step up and push on it, but at the same time temper it with like, be educated and like thoughtful in how you do it. Like get different people's opinions and validate your thoughts. Because if you're just if I just was in my basement conjuring up ideas, which a lot of the time I am, um, you can go down weird pathways that are much less likely to be optimal. And I think talking to people about your nerve, and that's another way you can mitigate a lot of that as well, is just talking to people. Like, is this a good idea? Find another, if you're a technical person, find other peers that are technical, find family members and friends that are non-technical. What do you think about this? And that can give you validation as well that, okay, this feels like there's something here. And that's typically the genesis of a lot of my projects is having an idea and feeling like there's something there, and then seeing that it hasn't been done yet, like by just Googling around and looking around. But it starts with talking to people and really just checking yourself, and if you have conviction in the idea, then you just like it gets to a point where you just have to start doing it. And I don't have any better advice, and maybe it's just where my psycho kicks in that I mentioned earlier, where I'll just if I'm upset, if I have enough conviction in an idea, like I from a year plus ago, I thought I could build a drone that can pick up dog poop. This feels like a real thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. You just got to do it at the end of the day. You just got to go, and at a certain point bail out if it's not fruitful, but you have to see it through at least a little bit. Like at this point, I'm at that point now where maybe a year is too long. It's a lot of time I've sunk into this, but I'm at a point now where I'm questioning, do I see it further, or do I just abandon it and pick up something else and cut my losses?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think also, like you pointed out, you'll learn along the way what you like, what you don't like. You'll meet people, you'll have experiences you never saw yourself having, like
Yeah,
being on an Australian morning show. Like you probably wouldn't have seen that happening 11 months ago. And so or even 2 months ago, maybe that wouldn't have been something
yeah,
in your minds, to your imagination. So I think
yeah.
these great things show up too.
It opens doors. It opens doors that you obviously don't think about. You have a target in your mind, and but it opens weird doors. I've had weird conversations and like potential things on the side I could do with people, or like companies like Raspberry Pi has taken a liking to a lot of my projects, and I'm in talks with some of them on things, and it opens doors. Just the more you just got to do it. If you're passionate about something, do it and display your passion. And I think people are attracted, for sure, people are attracted to passion and people see it. And then other passionate people, hopefully they'll reach out or you'll find those people. And that's where a lot of the fun in any of this is working with people and talking to people and just building things. At least for me, that's where it goes, is building things. But
I love it. Well, I really do appreciate you, Caleb, talking not only about what you've built, the process behind building it, and also I think some really great advice for life in general. Just give it a shot. The worst thing that happens is you learn something. That truly seems like you've
yeah,
learned a lot along the way.
yeah. I don't know if I'll be able to use all this soldering and weird fake poop handling skills, but yeah, some of it's helpful. So
Yet to be
thank you for the
determined.
kind words. Yeah, yeah. TBD. We'll see how it where it goes. But thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me and having this conversation. It's been fun.